Es un orgullo poder presentarles GeneXus X Evolution 3, que es la última y la más inteligente plataforma de desarrollo de software.
Me había olvidado de las luces. Hola a todos. Para los que no me conocen.
Good afternoon. I'm José Clastornik. I'm the Executive Director of the Electronic Government Agency of Uruguay, an office that is headquartered at the Presidency of the Republic. Many years ago, I used to sell e-government solutions to the government when I worked for IBM. At that time, the role of the salesperson was trying to help find the recipes for the dishes that people had to cook in different areas. There was no direct relation across the technological peers in different countries. We just generated links so solutions that served in one country could serve in other countries. There were no silos in e-government. But today the picture has changed. Under the name of CEOs, we have people responsible for acting as such, to work on policies and standards, as should do the government. In general, CEOs work together. We are almost a club now. And one of the topics that we tend to talk more about, especially those of us who are older, we answer questions to the new CEOs. And the question that always comes up is, what is the recipe for success in e-government? Now that question may come to us because we are older, or because Uruguay in particular is doing very well in this field. A few months ago, a few weeks ago, United Nations revealed the indicators that they issue every 2 years with the ranking of e-governments. We are leading in the region. That's the result. In all of the indicators, in e-government in particular, we are number 24 in the world. E-government indicator is a basket of 3 large indicators. One is infrastructure, the other is capacities, and the third is more connected to the visible, is services and procedures. If we break down this, we occupy the 14th place in the world ranking. And if we analyze another component which is not specifically connected to services and procedures, but more connected to citizen participation, state transparency, and strengthening citizenship in its relation with the state through accessing information, our position is number 3 in the world. So sometimes we should remember these figures, because in Uruguay we are like shooting stars. They just pass across the sky for a very short while. Because we did our homework, the first question that comes up is, what's the menu? What do we have to cook today? And my first comment is in this regard. The menu in e-government is known by everybody. It's a unique one. Each country will use different condiments, but the basic courses are alike. The most boring thing would be to have 5 people in charge of e-government and asking them, what are you doing? I do this, I do that, and I do the same, and so on. All and each one of them have a standard list of the things we need to do in e-government. Out of that standard list, what is it that Uruguay is more known for? This is what I will talk about. First of all, Uruguay stood out because of the ecosystem associated to e-government. I'm talking about different contexts from the viewpoint of the basic conditions. When you look at the telecommunications infrastructure or the Ceibal plan, the 1 laptop per child plan, now then we look at what was generated after that. And the first issue that always stands out in Uruguay is that we have a very solid office close to the presidency of the Republic. In general, other such centers for e-government are close to the Ministry of Economy and Finance. This needs to be stable and be sustainable, work over time with plans in the medium and long terms. And the second thing about the infrastructure is to have a very holistic vision. We did not wait for problems with hackers before we generated an area that would work on responding to information technology incidents. From the very beginning, we worked on privacy and data protection. We were not waiting to have problems at the level of social networks before doing anything about this. And the same is true of the different steps we took. And above all, we train people in our institution and in other institutions so that these people can really take up the challenge of the future. Second course, if you like, was to generate the technical conditions to make this possible. In general, technical issues have to do with best practices and generating conditions so that you can consolidate the infrastructure and make all the projects less costly, more efficient, and also to generate the conditions in order to have interoperability. What is different in the way we do things? If you go to the checklist, providers such as IBM may sell you an interoperability platform, but maybe it doesn't work. It may not work technically, or it may not be used. It's a matter of usage. We, for example, have 98 exchange services available in the platform. 98 exchange services, which imply 38,000 transactions per day. It could be queries, services that citizens don't have to do. Every time there is a transaction in the interoperability platform, there is a citizen that did not need to bring in a certificate. These are the technology-based conditions that allow us to do other things that are more visible at the level of citizens. For example, simplifying services and procedures. The model, the United Nations, which is so mature and is measured in indicators, shows different stages. The first stage is about information. And in our case, 100% of the information relative to procedures has to be available in the website. And we even had a decree saying that the decree is valuable, and if someone saw something and then arrived at an office and he was asked for something different, he could say that this employee, this civil servant, was incorrect. 100% of information relative to services and procedures must be available in the website. And we are preparing an app for cell phones that will also provide this information. The second topic is that procedures start in an electronic way. Today, we have a possibility of starting electronically, what corresponds to 70% of the volume of procedures. We check those procedures that are more used, and 70% of them can be started electronically. And probably 100% or quasi 100% will be done in the near future. The third topic is that the procedure must be 100% digital. Today, procedures are stopped because you need to make a payment or put a stamp, or you need the signature of a notary public or a special notification via fax. And all of that, in our case, has been solved by facilitating electronic signature tools approved by a notary public, notifications that are electronic notifications, electronic stamps, and so on, so as to have at least the infrastructure so that the 300 procedures that are 100% digital may be over 2,000 in the future. How did we achieve that? Apart from the infrastructure conditions, we facilitated other incubation mechanisms for new projects to fund the whole procedure. This is one of the elements that is supported by the Inter-American Development Bank, who they have given us the funds for most of these projects over the last 7 years. We already have 70 active projects, and in total there will be 90 odd projects supported by the Inter-American Development Bank. Well, our daily practice aims at providing homogeneous attention in all public offices, so that customers receive the same type of attention for all kinds of procedures. So any office may deal with any type of procedure. We started with a pilot over a year ago, and many offices follow this procedure. And in a broader participatory concept, we are working on what is called open data. We have the first open data portal with a very important volume of data set, over 80 data set with dozens of applications that use the data sets, not by government offices, but different institutions of the civil society. This is a very powerful innovation mechanism at present. If I were to summarize what I just mentioned, I should call it the macro recipe. To have a clear agenda with medium and long-term goals, to have a very clear agenda. We were able to do so because we received the support of the institutions, and there was continuity to carry this out. And above all, we were able to involve all the stakeholders from the outset. In the early stages, we didn't know how many stakeholders would join us, and we had consultation for the different action plans, and they were incorporated into our digital agenda. In all cases, what defines e-government is and should be the citizen first. It's a sine qua non condition. I told you that we involved all the stakeholders, and how can each and every person participate? Remember when I told you about selling solutions? At that time, I tried to understand how each solution would be part of the agenda that I figured out. But today, I would say the agenda does exist. I would recommend you to project solutions depending on the agenda you have. Or in other words, see, a corporate vice president in an international company, not the one I mentioned before, just in case. He was making a presentation. He talked about an application in a European country. And I had been with the person responsible for that 3 weeks before. And I knew that when he said, if you want to sell something in terms of e-government, you should be able to contact the people directly. We should know who we are contacting. We should know about their agendas. Maybe one of us will call you and ask for help if there's anything in particular, but you need to know what you want. You need to know how each of the ingredients will help in preparing each course. When you start doing something that is well known, the menu is known, the macro recipe is known, the question is, where do I start? You may say, well, I need quick wings, or I need dishes, or I need to make plans and show quick results. The only chance is to know that some projects take time, because they imply much more structuring. And we need to work a lot in building the legal framework that supports the whole institution. We did that. We focused and we asked for time to focus on that kitchen. And we, at the same time, generated mechanisms to provide quick solutions to show that things can be done. And we won credibility at the same time. So in that context, we need to understand that some apps require a lot of time. Some dishes take time to prepare. For example, if I want to work in electronic signatures, advanced electronic signature, where at the level of a physical person it has legal validity because the notary public has said this is certified. I have to build a legal framework to support this, and ideally a legal framework that is unanimous or has a consensus. I need to generate an institution that regulates the issue. I need to elaborate policies that spell out the way in which we need to work. I need to certify, and then I will be in a condition to use the same certificates that today allow you to use a single window or electronic invoice. Sometimes decisions have to do with quick dishes, and that's valid. And each of you will be aware of what is needed in your case. Another decision has to do with the model we use in our work. The model has many components. You may work in a federal model where the center concentrates the policies, the standards, and specific issues, or you may work more on an operational level and centralize certain things. This is not only institutional. Let me take the example of the advanced electronic signature again. We could do that and say that Agesic is the only agency that will grant this. So we pass a law, we do this very quickly, and Agesic is the only institution responsible. But in the context of those who are working with the electronic signature, some people had been working with them. So we need to generate institutionality, a legal framework that is more federal oriented. And today the authority that certifies this is the Post Office, the Ministry of the Interior, because they have the electronic identification card, and others. We may think alike when we plan to centralize electronic procedures or applications on the cloud, or when we want to leave policies in the hands of each stakeholder. But the definition is a decision of each CEO in each country. Last week, I said that if we have 100% of the procedures available, what did people do at the United Nations? They saw which procedures were available at the web. They did not ask us for questions. They just went into the internet and they checked to see what was available, and that's how we were ranked. Now, if 100% of the procedures are available but nobody uses them, that's investing a lot of effort and resources in something they have been wasted. So by the end of this procedure, we need to work to ensure the appropriation of these services by the citizens. We are now generating networks for replicators and to use many of the existing networks to also organize dissemination campaigns so that people become sensitized. I told you that there was one single menu, but it's not stagnant. When we started, they talked about transparency in terms of e-government, but nobody had defined open government, for example. And today, if you look at the trends and what is about to come, we already know, for example, that instead of a citizen remembering that he has to renew a driving license, or the system instead takes the initiative and invites the person to start this renewal procedure. Apart from that, the trend today is to create government innovation centers. We don't see many engineers working there. We see sociologists or human behavior specialists who try to see that the applications that are being created are worked with the citizens from the very beginning. We as analysts consider that we are very good in defining the best way to solve a problem. But the innovation centers that are being created worldwide today work from a different perspective. They are agents of change, and they play with citizens, trying to see different ways to solve the problem, different to the standards that we always provide. In any case, I think that the message is that the menu changes, and innovation is inherent to the logics of moving forward. We must accept innovation as part of the processes that reflect our identity, whether in a specific area or whether in specific projects. We need to include innovation. Now, in closing, the other day I was wondering why recipes for success and not formulas for success. Formula is more mathematical, and the word recipe is better because, for example, Coca-Cola, it's like Coca-Cola. It's what makes us different, what helps us find different things, what gives a special flavor to life. That's people. People, you make the difference. Thank you very much.